On the Range podcast. On the Range.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of On the Range podcast. I am your host, Mark Kelley with KelleyDefense.com, and joined with me, as always, is my co-host and friend, Rick HOGG from HOGG Tactical. How's it going, pal?
Man, Mark, it's going good. Today's episode, man, super important, right? But I want to let a couple things know. So one of our recipients of the In Honor of Duco project, we lost him today. So that was K9 Duke. So for those of you listening, keep his handler in your thoughts and your prayers. As you guys know, my feelings are, hey, we will see our four-legged mates once again. Not to be a somber, right? Definitely a time of remembrance. Duke, just like Duco, man, lived a great life. So that's always a good thing, but it kind of plays into this episode, right? And really want to just thank the patrons out there, man. We couldn't do it without your support, guys. If you want more info on our Patreon page, swing by either warhog.com, KelleyDefense.com, or swing by patreon.com/On the Range podcast. But getting back to the dog side, right? Guys, you know me, you know Duke. You guys know how much of a big part of my life he was. So really it plays into today's episode. You can hear the emotions, right? That's fine. Because that's what it is. It's raw. But really, our guest today, I am so grateful for this man and his company. So we've got Drew Kellerman from Heritage Distilling Company. And these guys run this series. It's called the Salute Series. And if you guys haven't seen it, which you should have, right? We've done some posting on there. We've got some War Dog whiskey. You can kind of see the front there. But here's the key point. Every bottle that you're getting, right? Not only are you getting some fantastic whiskey, but let me show you right here. See that right there? These guys went the extra mile, and that is Duco's paw print on there. They didn't have to do that, right? So each purchase that you're getting, in my opinion, a piece of Duco with me, right? That's why it's so personal. And for those of you going new to the show or haven't heard before, hey, who's this Duco character you speak of? So, wrong finger, right there. So that was Duco, my combat assault dog. I lost him July 5th, 2021 to osteosarcoma. Dog saved my life numerous times, and Drew and his company did a incredible act starting this kind of new Salute series, to the War Dogs. So without further ado, let's bring on Drew Kellerman. He is a veteran. He is the VP of production for Heritage Distilling Company. And really, he's the man behind, in my opinion, the whole War Dog series with their Salute series. So, Drew, welcome to the show. Thank you for your service, and thank you for being a good friend and helping, our War Dogs out there, especially to keep Duco's memory alive. So, Drew, welcome to the show, buddy.
Wow. Appreciate the introduction, gents. Humbled to be here, grateful to be here, and really excited to kind of tell the story and kind of deep dive on this whole thing.
Yeah. And Drew, we couldn't have done it without you, buddy. Why don't you go ahead, just kind of give the viewers, listeners, just a little bit about you, your service, kind of how you started, got up with Heritage, and we'll take it from there.
Sure. Yeah. It's kind of a fun story. So you go back to, 1991, had the great honor and opportunity to serve big Army, infantry, was an airborne ranger, qualified 11 Alpha, served at the 25th Infantry Division, 3rd Brigade, 25th or 27th Infantry Wolfhounds was the battalion I was in, the 1st Battalion. And it really was a peacetime thing, right? From just coming after Gulf War I, and then chose to leave the service before 9/11 occurred. Had started a family. We didn't get called back. My wife, Sarah, who's our veteran co-founder, the other co-founder for our company, she was a Black Hawk pilot. She was one of the first females, especially in her assault battalion back in the early 90s, which is a pretty, amazing time to be serving. But she and I both had the opportunity to really do what we did, but it was big Army stuff. We weren't special operations or anything, but boy, we got out. We started a family. Fast forward a couple years to 2012, and we were in our backyard sitting around a fire pit enjoying some whiskey with some very good friends, Jennifer and Justin Stiefel, and Justin held up his glass of whiskey and said, "Hey, this is pretty good, but we could make better." And we said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Hey, the craft distilling industry in Washington State, which is where we are, the laws have changed and allowing us to really follow the same path or trajectory as craft brewing 20 years earlier." And he laid out a whole plan, a whole business plan, all kinds of great ideas on how we would be able to make whiskey, gin, vodka, and so forth. And we just thought it was a fantastic idea. We got deep in our cups and talked all kinds of details. Well, next morning, whiskey had worn off. It still seemed like a good idea. And so we decided to move forward with the business plan and raise some money and get a space and buy a still and begin to teach ourselves and learn how to do this. Our primary founder, Justin, is both a chemical engineer and an attorney, which are really good disciplines to bring together for the industry we're in. So we learned really from the ground up, hired a great small team and got kind of things going, so it was just a real honor to be in that entrepreneurial space, flying by the seat of our pants in many ways, but starting to build. A couple of years after we got some of our whiskeys began to make an impact in the local community, we had a wonderful visit. I'll never forget. Command Sergeant Major Scott Olson from 1st Special Forces Group walked into our offices one day and he said, "Guys, look, I really like your whiskey. I've been watching what you've been doing. Enjoy your products. And I would like to spearhead a whiskey that would be a fundraising opportunity for the local nonprofit benevolent organization supporting 1st Special Forces Group." We happen to be about 30 minutes away or less from Fort Lewis. At the time it was Fort Lewis in Washington, which is where First Group's headquartered and some of their battalions are. So we were overjoyed at the opportunity to do so. Both Sarah and I had left the service a couple decades earlier, but it always, felt very closely tied to our veteran community, very closely tied. One of my best buddies growing up from 6th grade, he was a First Group guy for forever, and had a chance to connect with that organization. So when they came in and asked us to partner, we thought it was just, that was ordained from heaven sort of thing. So we moved forward. We started doing a 1st Special Forces Group whiskey. We'd sell it at local events that they would hold. We'd go to their Menton Week every December and be part of that, and selling it locally. And what we found was the word spread pretty quickly, and other organizations and other members of other special operations groups and other special ops units were like, this is really great what you're doing for First Group, but there's more than that in the special ops community. How about the rest of us? So we thought that was really cool, and we got a lot of feedback saying, guys, First Group is great, and we did an annual edition every year. We're 8 years into it. We've raised about $150,000, actually more than that now, for the local. There's 3 actually organizations that support First Group locally. So we've been having fun check ceremonies with those guys, and it's just been an honor to see all this money for their kids or the scholarship programs, and so that was great. But like I said, feedback was, guys, why are you just staying focused on First Group? Can you do something for the rest of us? Right? We're like, whoa, we're not big enough to at the time we really didn't have the capability to do that. But as the years rolled on, we began to rack up a bunch of awards. I can say this because I'm not the master distiller, but we have been honored as the most awarded all-time craft distillery in North America by the American Distilling Institute. We had 10 years in a row. And there's like 3,000 distilleries in North America. So we grew to a point we felt we had the capabilities and the responsibility, quite frankly, to do something more than just support First Group. And that's where the Salute series was born. This was last year. So late last year, middle of last year, we began the process of figuring out how do we do this. And really it was a special ops focus initially, because that's where we started with First Group and with the Green Berets, and then we're like, how do we celebrate special operations? So we came up with Special Operations Salute. So the very first product we rolled out was all about Army SOF, right? So it was the 6 tribes within Army SOF. We had some phenomenal technical advisors to support us, because one of the things we were really concerned about, 2 things. One, okay, how do we not be perceived as valor stealing? We're a veteran co-founded company, but we're not a special ops company. We don't want to pretend to be, like some of the other great companies out there that are special operator owned and operated. That's not us. However, we want to make sure that we are able to portray whatever unit or whatever organizations that we want to honor and celebrate and bring awareness around. We want to do it with authenticity, and we don't want to make this about our company. We want to make this about that community. So we were very careful to pull in a couple of great technical advisors on that end. One of them being Michael Solovey, who is our artist, and he's a veteran, 27 years. Yep, he did Allegiance there for us, and he's done a bunch of other incredible artwork for us. That lithograph prints that we have, or some of our other products and so forth. But he was able to be kind of a technical advisor. My buddy from First Special Forces Group, 27 years. He also helped us out quite a bit with that. So we launched that back in November of last year, which was, just an honor to do so. Oh, the other concern we had was, do we have appropriately matured and high enough quality whiskey to really honor this? We want to make this the highest top shelf product we can make. We don't want this just to be a pretty bottle with a pretty label, and then a bunch of crap in the bottle. We want this to be truly a high-end whiskey that was that we could very much feel that it would be appropriate for ritual sips and ceremonial toasts. That was the purpose behind it. So, like, our first whiskey we launched was a blend of 6 and 7 year old rye and bourbon whiskeys. So the blended whiskey at 105 proof, which we called howitzer strength, right? 105 millimeter. And so an overproof whiskey that would be truly representative. And one of our first fans, which we love, was the commanding general of First Special Forces Command. Big bourbon fan, big whiskey fan, loves overproof whiskey. He got a hold of this and was a huge fan of it. And they were using it for ritual sips and ceremonial toasts for, some of the most somber moments for the fallen and so forth. And so we were deeply honored that our whiskey rose to that level of quality, that it would be used in that manner. So that was great. But then we started getting hammered about everything. Well, what about the rest of us? So we're working on other additions from the special operations standpoint, but we also realized we need to expand our focus. And so we launched our Service to America Salute brand, right? So it's all part of the Salute series. So saluteseries.com, like you guys put up there. That's where all this is found. But super exciting, just last month, we were able to launch the War Dogs edition that Rick, you brought up. And we could only have done this, or we only were able to do this because of you, Rick, and your technical advice. You've been our primary technical advisor, primary support, the Duco story, the organizations that you have. There's just, there it is. There's no way around, no way to even pretend that we could have pulled off this project with any sort of authenticity, any sort of genuineness, than if you hadn't been there for us. So we're deeply honored and super grateful for your support on that.
Yeah, Drew, I appreciate it. But I got to tell the viewers, listeners this, right? Here's the part with you guys. Yeah, you took my input and kind of ran with it, but we took it, I should say you took it a step further, right? This part here, the part I can't stress enough, that paw print, right? Just isn't any old paw print. That is Duco's actual paw print I sent you from his 3D mold that you guys superimposed on the label. And like I said, I can't stress it enough. When you buy a bottle of this War Dog whiskey, to me, you're getting part of Duco, right? Physically, I mean, he is there. The question of the hour comes in, right? What am I going to do with this bottle? Is this bottle going to go? And then same thing up here on the, correct me if I'm wrong, the tax stamp as well.
Yes, that's
right.
correct.
You put it up there. So me just looking at it, right? And obviously this one here is clean and unbroken, but my open one, I carefully took the knife there because I don't want to sit there and lose the top, right? I'm not going to lose Duco's paw print up there. But yeah, I mean, that to me was the above and beyond step of this. So for you guys to sit there and go, yep, I've got a War Dog Whiskey Edition bourbon out there. Yeah, you do, because you've got that paw print. That's the seal of approval in my opinion. And then from me to you, I can't thank you enough, right? That helps me keep his memory alive. And then in turn, that helps us share the story of the In-Arm Duco project, which, oh, by the way, with you guys and your great support, help support that so that we never let another SOF canine handler make a medical decision about their partner based on their finances. I mean, the whole synergy between everything, for me to you, brother, thank you, right? Thank you for Duco standpoint. Thank you for the retired dogs that you're helping. And oh, by the way, my tasting notes, I taste me a little bit of dog slobber, maybe a or two, but to me, I got more of a cinnamony type, at least for my palate. But absolutely fantastic, right? At a 98.6 human body temperature, right? Like you guys did all these things that really, when you break this whiskey down, it is so monumental that nobody else is thinking about, right? You're not putting a tie to basically the proof to the body temperature of a human being that these dogs are saving. So, and that was your doing, right? I had nothing to do with that. I just merely kind of gave you some behind the scenes, gave you some stories, passed you some clips, gave you Duco's paw print, and you guys put it on there. And dude, I am forever grateful, right?
Appreciate that.
Yeah. And like I said, that just helps him keep that memory going. So when you talk about having a perfect, I'm going to say it again, a perfect bourbon whiskey to sit there and sip, toast, whatever you need to do, that's it, right? And it's tied right back. So awesome job. One thing I did want to say, when you're doing your intro, we got to do some clarification here because we got a couple Desert Storm veterans here that we don't like to refer to as Gulf War One, or no, you call it Gulf War One, right? It's Desert Storm, man. It's the one and the only.
Desert Storm.
So that's
100%. Yep.
Yeah. Certainly aging ourselves a little bit there.
Yes.
No, and you know what?
Gray hairs. Yeah.
Go ahead, buddy.
No, I just say the gray hairs. Like it's
You know, the fact that it is true that there's a lot of veteran-owned companies out there, and they are giving back and they are raising awareness and some of those other stuff. But there's a lot out there who, when it's time for let's face it, the money to meet the road and to really impact things and really do things that may not make any money. You may not get your money back, but still do it because of the detail and stuff that you do. The high percentage of success, in my opinion, is a no-brainer. But if you're just throwing labels on there and pushing it out there, it is what it is. But great forethought and getting with Rick. And I think the bottle just turned out fantastic. And we're really here to not only highlight the project, which is always the main thing, but you too, pal, and the other co-founders and the folks at your company, unbelievable. So big shout out to you guys. Continued service, even after you've been out, like you said, been a couple of decades. So
appreciate that.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, and Rick, you brought up a good point about, the fundraiser side and honoring of Duco and making this real, right? Like, it's one thing to have a product that you push out there to kind of honor a community or a group, which is great, but to be able to tie it directly to a specific individual dog in this case, a true war hero, right? You mentioned to me several times, he saved your life and members of your team at least 3 times, and we're talking. And, that's one example of an entire community of soft dogs. And then, broader within the military community, the war dogs out there, which so many people, that are outside, particularly outside the military community, don't really know much about. I mean, it's a community that we really want to raise awareness, honor and celebrate, and do so in a way that can bring a lot of knowledge. So our website, when folks go to the because we sell these online. One of the things that's made this a unique project for us, a couple things. One, the entire project was set up to be a profoundly generous fundraiser for the nonprofit benevolent organizations that directly support the communities that we're honoring, right? So like when we launched the Army Special Operations, tied into as many organizations as we could to be able to then fund them. So 10% of gross profits, which is a pretty big chunk, all depends on which sales channel, but 10% of gross profits of each bottle sold goes to those organizations. In many
Wow.
cases, we've been told by organizations, they said, hey, it's great if you cut us a check, but it's actually better if you send us a bunch of bottles that would be the equivalent value, because then they can turn around and, use them to raise 5 to 7 to 10x the value in auctions and raffles and things like that. Because I'm told it's whiskey and guns that are the big items for raffles and auctions, right? So
Yeah.
we've been just pumping this stuff out as fast as we can, and then making lots and lots of product donations to organizations and checks as well, to really give as much as we can. I think we've now raised about $120,000 in cumulative donations since we started November of last year. So it's, and our mission, there's a mission statement behind the project, which is to raise, to have each edition raise at least $1 million in donations. So we want and we expect for this to go really big, to go nationwide. And one of the ways that we're doing that is, it's going to take us a while to get any of these products into distribution in stores. Army Air Force Exchange, NEXCOM, the Navy and Marine exchanges. We're hoping to get there at some point. We are hoping to get some store placements here and there. That takes a while. It takes a while. It's a 3-tier distribution system that takes a lot of the command and control out of our hands, and we sort of hand it off and hope things go well, which isn't really a big warm fuzzy on our part. So the way that we're able to capture the highest profit margin, which gives us the highest amount to give back to organizations like the Duco Project, is to basically directly sell these to everybody, and give them a chance to buy that on our websites, right? So we teamed up with a great company that can legally ship spirits like these whiskeys directly to consumers in 45 states and the District of Columbia. That's amazing. That's the first time we've ever seen this capability. It's a great company, very entrepreneurial, that figured out that if they could get the licensing to do that, and they could team up with us, we can direct ship these to people all over the country. That keeps our profit margin higher, and it gives us our donation amount higher, and we can just reach out to people immediately, right? So we don't need to wait a year or two to get into stores for people to see this. So that's been really exciting, and we're just really overwhelmed. The initial feedback that we're getting on our initial videos we've put out and the initial promotion of War Dogs has been overwhelming. Everybody is absolutely loving this. The veteran community, the working dog community, the pet owning community, the bourbon community. Anybody who supports the military. It's really been an amazing thing to watch. And this just launched a couple weeks ago.
And Drew, you bring up a great point, right? So a couple key points I want to hit on. We're about 24 years removed. We used to euthanize military working dogs at the end of their service, right? So back in 2000, thank God, Congress finally passed a law that we were going to no longer euthanize these dogs. So that gave us, the handlers, that opportunity. Hey, when it was time for them to retire, to come home with us. However, the problem comes in, there's no dog EVA. Basically, Uncle Sugar goes, hey, man, there's the leash. Have a good life. He's on you. Boom. And like in my case, hey, man, this very dog that saved your life, brought your teammates home, gets diagnosed with osteosarcoma. And what's the first thing the vets say? Yeah, right rear leg amputation, 4 rounds chemotherapy. You're looking at, $10,000 there plus his other $10,000 of just to get you to that point of going, yeah, confirm he's got osteosarcoma, So we're looking at, $15,000 bill just to add some longevity to his life. How many guys are out there floating? One of the recipients of the In Honor Duco Project, he was an active duty guy. So he's got a retired dog. My man ain't got 15K just burning a hole in his pocket to take care of his dog. And that's the whole part is people just need to be educated. These dogs, unlike the human service members, because they are still U.S. service members, in my opinion, don't have any type of post-retirement care. And that's where, In Honor of Duco, obviously supported by you guys and other organizations out there, we go to support these canines. But it's the act that these guys have done on the battlefield, especially during the GWOT. Who knows how many guys are alive? But, Vietnam estimated, 10,000 service members came home because of the war dogs that were over in Vietnam. And with that, we kind of started this whole canine documentary, the war dogs, giving a voice to the voiceless, because these guys can't talk to us. They can't tell us what's going on, their achy zowies, right? And just trying to share these stories to better educate. But now partnering with you guys, having this whole war dog series, it's just another avenue to better educate people on the incredible work that these dogs have done over the years, right? We're just not talking the GWAT. We can go all the way back. You look at World War II. Look at the success the Marine Corps had, with all their dogs over there out in the Pacific that were all donated, right? They were people's pets. They turned around and made them war dogs. From Korea, where we abandoned them. Same thing with Vietnam. Thank God we kind of turned the ship. But you guys, and with the partnership we have, your efforts, man, hats off to you for helping just educate more people, right? Not only to sit there and have a fine sipping whiskey that you can, enjoy with your friends, family, mates, whatever. Way to remember not only our war dogs, whether it's, your D-Day, what a generation there, right? I think we'll have to hit on that one there a little bit.
For sure.
But also the special operations side, right? Just amazing the avenues for your salute series that you guys have opted to go down.
Yeah, appreciate that. And it's, to your point about the documentary that you're talking about, I know you sent over a 16-minute extended trailer, which we watched multiple times. Nothing but lumps in throats and tears in eyes the whole time. Had no idea about the backstory, about understanding the history of war dogs, and that really cemented to us why this was a community. The handlers and the dogs going back, they said to World War II and even before, right? And then they go back to World War I, where they're, messenger dogs, right? Like, hey, go take this message, run across the no man's land, getting shot at to take the message from this commander to that commander, all the way to the present. And when you mentioned, when we learned, something like 10, like you said, 10,000 servicemen just in Vietnam were came home because of the dogs. And then they left the dogs as just surplus equipment, quote unquote. I mean, it's just shocking, and to see the evolution of where it's come from. Obviously, with the GWAT and the substantial step up of the combat multipliers of the multipurpose canines and the combat assault dogs to all the special ops units, not to mention all the conventional forces doing what they're doing. It is a story that needs to be told and retold. And I mean, the number of memorials that are out there for war dogs, I had no idea. There's dozens of incredible, memorials all over the place. Great organizations everywhere. And this just is something that isn't really well known by the most people, including the whiskey drinking community and the bourbon community and so forth. And so it's just an honor to bring some of this more to light. I know we tell the Duco story on our website. If people click through on the bottle and they can read about it, there's links to the videos. So we're co-opting a lot of the work you've done to try to again make this almost about educating the public about it. But I did want to come back to the whiskey real quick, because I know that a lot of times there's lots of questions about the whiskey. So the whiskey that we put into War Dogs, it's a 5-year straight bourbon. So it's a pure bourbon. So just a quick backstory on bourbon and whiskey. All bourbon is a type of whiskey, but not all whiskey is bourbon. So a lot of folks say, hey, well, if it's not made, the misunderstanding is if it's not made in Bourbon County, Kentucky, it can't be bourbon. Nope, that's not true. It needs to be made in Kentucky to call it Kentucky bourbon. But bourbon just means it's more than 51% made from corn, right? The mash bill is made from corn. Oftentimes it'll have 2 or 3 other grains to give it kind of complexity and body and round out the flavor profiles. It'll often be rye. It'll often be a little bit of malted barley, and sometimes we add wheat to it as well. So that you've heard of 4-grain bourbons versus 3-grain bourbons. They add wheat to it. But this is a whiskey that we've aged internally for at least 5 years, and we've blended together. As you talked about tasting notes, the way that officially the whiskey tasters, they say, look, it's a golden amber. Tasting notes would include dried plum, dark berry, pepper, roasted beech nut, and then just a great complexity of grain, fruit, spice, and wood. That's really kind of the way that it's been described. And it's just one of the smoothest sipping whiskeys we've made. And it was very intentional that we proofed it. So when you make a whiskey, right, it'll come out of the barrel, it'll be at 123, 125 proof, right? So that would be like, 60+% alcohol by volume, which in many cases is just too hot. So if whiskey, sometimes you'll see cask strength whiskey put in the bottle, feels no cask strength, that'll be 120 proof or above. It's very difficult to drink that. So even if it's very, very good whiskey, it's so concentrated, the ethanol content is so high that it'll often literally sort of scorch your taste buds before you're able to actually enjoy it. So that's kind of why there's a sweet spot of what proof people like to enjoy sipping it. So we've downproofed this particular whiskey to 98.6. So we did that very much on purpose, intentionally, not for a couple reasons. One, because we found that was a sweet spot from a flavor and a nose standpoint. It's enough water added to the whiskey before bottling that allows it to open up. You don't necessarily need to add water to it. It's not too tight or too strong. Either straight or with an ice cube, you drinking it neat or with ice is how we recommend it. And it's at the right proof for the average whiskey or bourbon aficionado should be just perfect for that.
Mm-hmm.
But you brought up the double entente. The real meaning behind 98.6 is, as we all know, that's the internal body temperature of the living human body, right? Well, that's intentional because the number of human beings that war dogs have saved, going back to, again, we'll just start, like you said, Guadalcanal, the Marine Corps in World War II, officially, right, when there was the official war dog department was stood up. And we chose to call this War Dogs, Rick, because you said, hey, you need to call this War Dogs because that's really how it started. That's the true historically accurate representation of the military working dogs. And so that's why it's War Dogs. But, the number of lives, that have been saved by these dogs and really not known or appreciated until very recently, and hopefully we're bringing some more light to that. The number of lives have been saved, 98.6. So we hope everybody can really enjoy this.
Yeah. And Drew, you hit it on the mark, man, right? So typically you look at, most whiskeys, they're running somewhere either, hey, you're 95, you're 105. That's kind of your spot. But for you guys to take that added measure, right? That added thought, hey, 98.6. Dude, I was just sitting there going, man, you guys got, geniuses out there in the Rick House, probably because they're all running around catching in them odors, right? I'll be up on the high rafters going, feeling good. But no, it's things like that, right? And I think part of it is just to educate viewers, listeners, consumers, just to go, hey man, there is more into this bottle than just cracking a barrel, dumping some whiskey in there, slapping a label, out the door you go.
Yep.
Right. That's the part, for me to you that really get the word out. There is thought that went in there. I mean, your very point of going, just like when we're going with the War Dogs, right? Could I have been selfish? We're going to dub it the SOF K9. Yeah, I could have, right? Probably could have got some buy-in from you, but no, dude, it's for the War Dogs, right? It's an elite community of U.S. service members. People seem to forget that, right? Mm-hmm. And yeah, they all serve in different capacities, but hats off to you. But then, again, taking it to that next level, right? Yeah. Putting Duke's paw print on there. You guys going, hey, we just don't want a bottle of whiskey, right? We just don't want a bottle of bourbon rolling. We want a tie. And dude, when you asked it, hey, put the paw print on there, I was like, absolutely blown away. So that to me is you're no kidding. There's not another distilling company out there that's taken it to that point that basically, boom, that's your seal of approval right there. That's your authenticity. You've got a no kidding War Dog print on that bottle. That is Combat Assault Dog Duco's print. You want to know more about him? warhog.com, man. We got more stories and videos, and that dog was something else. But you helping bring that light to story, and just sharing things that he had done, and then in turn you guys honoring, and then, oh, by the way, giving back, right?
Yeah.
But I did want to ask you, Drew, and I don't think I ever have, the D-Day series. What stemmed that one?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. So thanks. So we we were experiencing some great success early this year with the Army SOF, and we were running into some obstacles on rolling out the other service special operations editions, which we're still working on, by the way. More to follow on that. But we had an executive leadership discussion. We said, hey, this coming June 6th this past June 6th is the 80th anniversary of D-Day, of the initial day of the invasion of Normandy, right, to push back the Nazi war machine that had basically crushed and was destroying Europe. So it was kind of the first, as you guys know, with D-Day, is it the first real opportunity for the Allies to begin to roll back the Germans, and it was sort of eventually it led in the German defeat, of course, thankfully. But we thought, well, how do we have a link or a tie somehow that we could authenticate? Because again, we're very concerned about valor stealing. We're very concerned about the appearance of that, and we want to make sure that we're doing this in a way that is honoring the community and doesn't just look like a cheap commercial rip-off of an honor, an event that should be honored and hallowed, and we're just using it to make money, right? We got to be very careful with that. Well, my Uncle Bill, he's my half uncle, so he's an older generation. He'd be kind of like my grandparents' generation. He was a 25-year-old infantry airborne captain, company commander with 101st Airborne, with a 501st PIR, and he jumped in on D-Day. He was one of those guys. He actually did the jump. He got shot on the way down. He got into a bunch of firefights. He eventually ran out of course, linked up with a couple 82nd guys, never met his own guys again because of the crazy drop zone shenanigans that went on. Teamed up with some 82nd guys, and they formed a small squad basically to go hedgerow to hedgerow, and they fought viciously until while wounded, right, until he eventually ran out of ammo, and they got captured, and then he escaped, got captured again, escaped again, eventually found himself escaping and making his way in Poland to a bunch of Polish freedom fighters, and they kind of helped him kind of get away from the patrols. Eventually, he when the Russians came in from the north, they came across a Russian patrol when they met up with the Poles that he was with, lined him up against the wall, ready to shoot him, as they thought he was a German officer pretending to be an American, right? Because it's kind of right at the end of the war, the Germans were being beat, so the Germans were doing their best to hide. And he convinced them that he was an American right before they pulled the trigger. So they busted out a bottle of vodka, and they toasted Roosevelt, Churchill, and Hitler. I'm sorry, not Hitler, Roosevelt, Churchill, and Stalin. And so they got drunk on the Russian vodka. They became buddies. He ended up going up through Odessa and up to Leningrad, and then over to Egypt, and finally made his way back home. So he had this really cool story. He unfortunately passed away in 2018 at 97 years old. But he just had this great story. And I remember talking to him. He was actually one of the reasons I joined the infantry, went airborne, went ranger. I wanted to kind of follow his footsteps, and he thought that was really cool. But he didn't really like to talk about the story much. And I asked him one day, I said, why? He goes, I never accomplished my mission. He goes, I never teamed up with my guys. We were supposed to go take care of XYZ. We never did that. He goes, I ended up getting captured, ran out of ammo. He was actually embarrassed. He kind of felt like that he had let the country down. And we're just like, Uncle Bill, are you kidding me? Like, do you really understand how people value and perceive what you've done? And so it was that generation. That's how he was a part of the generation. So anyway, long story short, we said, we got to honor D-Day. We've got a family connection to one of the heroes of D-Day. So we rolled out, again, with Michael Solovey's help as our artist, and he's got decades of world-renowned sketch art that he did. We did a salute to the 80th anniversary commemoration of D-Day, because we think this is probably the last, well, we probably know, this is the last big celebration of D-Day where any of those guys are still alive. Mm-hmm. Right? There's literally a handful left, and they'll all be gone by the time the 85th rolls around. Probably won't be anyone left. So so Michael just did a phenomenal job for us. He did the To the Guns lithograph print, kind of a Norman Rockwell style, a tough grit, representing all the warriors of D-Day. And we did 3 bottles, land, sea, and air, to celebrate. And we really try to make this about the Allied forces. I mean, it's obviously we're an American company, we're American centric, we're American military veterans, but we wanted to really focus on the Allied air forces, naval forces, and ground forces that won D-Day, and tell the story a little bit. So that's a great whiskey. That's another one that we've got available. They're all 3 different versions. If you buy all 3 bottles, you get the lithograph print for free. You can't actually buy the print. We don't sell those. Those come as a gift from Michael and from us if you buy 3 bottles. But the whiskey inside is a straight bourbon, straight bourbon. It's a 5-year, and we bottled that at 101 proof as a hat to Uncle Bill with his Airborne. So that's also got a really good. We've been getting some very good feedback on the tasting notes on that. So thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, isn't that amazing though? I'm sorry, Rick. It's just amazing for your family members' attitude and what a great. It's a testament to his personality and what a lot of veterans, even after that followed in his footsteps, like yourself, I mean, have that same attitude where Operation Overlord gets separated, joins another unit, gets a bunch of stuff done, gets captured, escapes, try to get some more stuff done. And he's just humble as the day is long. He probably was all the way up until the end of his life. And man, what a great bottle. I got the Salute series up there, Rick, and Drew, so everybody could take a look at it. So there's not don't just stop with the War Dogs series, go after all of them and get that free artwork. But no, go ahead, Rick. I'm sorry about that, pal.
No,
great story,
Mark,
Drew.
Mark, I was just going to tell you, it's like we've been to conventions and Mark, you'll remember this. You talked to those old timers there, and probably not the right word to use it when we were young whippersnappers, call them old timers, right? But
a long time ago.
Yeah. But these guys, you talk to guys that had 4 combat jumps only, right? No jump school, because you'd be interacting with them. Oh yeah, how many jumps you got? And I think like at the time it was like 35 jumps, and they're like amazed, right? Like, oh my God, well, yeah, they're training jumps. Well, how many do you have? I've got 4. What do you mean 4? Sicily, Salerno, Normandy, and Holland. Right? That's their only jumps are into combat, but they're so humble, man. Dude.
Yeah. Hold my drink, Junior.
Yeah. Hey, rookie. But they would never tell you that, right? I mean, they were just the most humblest men. And you're in this room of just pipe hitters. Now, granted, we're 82nd guys, not 101st,
Right.
We won't smash our puking buzzard brothers, but I mean, what a way to honor.
I will tell you this. So Michael Solvay, our artist, was very, very careful, and he had a very difficult task. How do you represent on a bottle representing the Allied Air Forces with an American military bent? How do you represent all of the guys that participated, right? So he had to, one of the things he was very careful to do was to put a sign to the St. Mary Glaze, to the town. I don't know if you guys see, if you look up closely on the label for the land edition, that's a lithograph print, but there's actually on the bottle itself, he did the artwork for all that, and there is a sign, that basically, that's it there. Yeah, so and it's hard to kind of zoom in, but it's there you go. So St. Mary Glaze is, and he's got 2 guys that could be, 2nd or 5th Battalion Rangers. They climb the cliffs. They could be 82nd guys. It could be.
Look like 82nd guys to me.
They are 82nd guys. I can tell.
Yeah, but he was very, very. He's like Drew. He goes, if we don't call out St. Mary Glaze, if we don't represent and honor the 82nd Airborne on a whiskey that you've done at 101 proof, you're gonna hear about it. And so,
for sure.
That was a pretty cool thing. But Michael's great because he did the allegiance, right? The dog on the cover of the War Dogs edition. And what he was very, very specific and careful to do is he wanted to represent it, in that sitting alert at attention posture, right? Looking at his handler, waiting, with that absolute sense of allegiance. Right. That's why he titled this Allegiance. And there's multiple, it's multiple meanings behind that. One, of course, is the allegiance of this incredible war dog to his handler. right? And he's wounded. You kind of see his front left leg has been wrapped up.
I noticed the bandage. Yeah.
Yep, he's bandaged up. He's got the tactical vest on, the soft tactical vest on. He's kind of a German Shepherd, but like shorter haired, so it's kind of like the Malinois, but Dutch Shepherd. Like trying to mix together, a couple of different types of dogs that would work, but kind of would be recognizable, right, to kind of the community that's learning about the war dog story. But allegiance, of course, to the handler, allegiance to the mission. That unwavering willingness to do whatever he's told to do. And give his life, for the nation. And then, of course, with the flag in the background, kind of to remind all of us that we're all Americans and we all, like the Pledge of Allegiance starts off, we're all, Allegiant. And one of the things, guys, I can tell you that we've been very, very pleased about this salute series that we didn't know how this would go, but it seems to be bringing people together. This is a very divisive time in our country, which is really unfortunate. And the salute series and the fact that this is really a honoring, celebrating, fundraising whiskey project, calling out Army Special Operations, calling out veterans from D-Day, calling out the war dogs, and we've got many more on the way. By the way, many more editions coming. Everybody seems to be getting behind that. They're loving the whiskey. They're loving the fact that it's generating funds that directly support organizations like the Duco Project. That's the best part of this whole thing. Is it seems to be we can all kind of rally around a nice glass of whiskey around a campfire, raise a toast, ceremonial toast, ritual sip, and just kind of remember who we really all are underneath all the tension that's currently occurring. And so we're very, very humbled and proud to be part of that.
Yeah, Drew, and you guys, just a fantastic job. Right. Just the care. And again, I'm going to be kind of that selfish side, right, on the war dog side.
Sure.
Although I'm not going to lie, the SOF side, they're all cool. Right. But there's a special place, for the war dog side. But just the detail, right? So when you look at your special operations side, let's touch on that one here just for a little bit.
Sure.
And I get it, right? You're big on not having, as you like to say, the stolen valor type deal, but you got the Tower of Power on there, man. That's what it's all about, right? You could have just had the SF on there. Nope. Stick the Tower on there. Let them know, hey, man, I got them all. But just fantastic done, with all just bringing attention, because I don't think people really understand, all that special operations, whether it's 2-leg, 4-leg, have really done in the GWAT. And then to boot, I got to love, you got the USOC arrowhead on there, right? So it's kind of all encompassing there. But man, that's right off the Fort Bragg. That's right. I said it, Fort Bragg. Sign there where you've got, the jump master on there. That's just a lot of, so for some people, they'll look at it and might not understand it, get it. For those of us that had remember the old sign, dude, that's it right there. So I just had to throw that one to you.
I love that. 100%. And that actually was a major hat tip to Michael Solove. Part of his career was with 3rd and 7th Special Forces groups in Afghanistan, I think Iraq as well. So back when he was 0304, he's about to retire. He doesn't like to talk about his active service so much publicly, which I think is another just overwhelming sort of humility. But he gets it. He's part of the community. He's been part of the community for years. And he goes, Drew, if you really want to do a secret handshake demonstrating true authenticity and understanding of the community, you're gonna do the arrowhead with a master blaster with the mustard stain on it, triple canopy on top of that. The guys who are from Bragg, they're gonna get that. They're gonna immediately realize that this isn't just a bunch of civilians or whatever trying to valor steal to make a buck. And so appreciate you mentioning that, because I know that's that isn't something almost anybody is going to notice. So we try to do a couple different sort of secret handshakes with that.
Well, Drew, let's be an honest broker. I mean, when you got 29 years, actually, I got more than that now, but
I was going to say more than
when
that.
you served on 29 years on, as some would dub it, the center of the universe, Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
Yeah.
There's this, like you said, it's the subtleties that when you see it, bring all those memories back, right? Just like for those guys on the D-Day series that are still around. See St. Mariglis, right? There's power to it. So, and I think that's the part from me to you that speaks so highly of your company, and especially what you're doing with the Salute series, is not just, like you said, I could slap the label on there. No way.
Sure.
The secret handshake, whether you want to say, the authenticity, however you want to look at it. And really from the veteran standpoint, you guys are very humble as well, right? Almost like that World War II Greatest Generation.
Yeah.
Hey man, we just want to make sure we're doing this thing right. So absolutely fantastic work. You guys are doing, just bringing awareness across the board. And Mark remembers the old Fort Bragg sign. It's like, yeah, dude, you can't forget it, man. You can't forget it.
No, that's fantastic. I absolutely love that. Well, and that's, we wanted to represent and honor all 6 tribes, so to speak, within special operations, but also we wanted to, with that the arrowhead on top, also honor those units that we really can't talk about, that don't like to be talked about, that are part of Army Special Operations, the tier 1 tip of the spear guys. So that was another kind of way to try to get some of that in without being, too obvious about the whole thing.
No, you guys, you hit the mark, man, without a doubt.
Yeah, you nailed it, brother. Awesome. For sure. Another good thing that what you're doing, I think it allows people to give to these these projects through their purchases, for sure. But it also allows other companies to be creative, and how can we get involved? Because Duco, of course, is a fantastic story. Your great uncle or your uncle's story, Operation Overlord participant, great stories. Those kind of things are really like, and Rick's right. If things are tied to a story, an individual, and then we're able to include a project that encompasses all those who are involved in it, people can be creative and get involved as well. And that's a big nod to these type of projects that, quite frankly, are successful. You show that it's very doable, and you nailed it, man, with all the artwork. I don't know who does your photography, bro, but man, they're on. Make sure you're paying them and keeping them around, because they did a great job. This website looks fantastic.
Thank you. I will pass it on to our creative team and our technical team, because they do. They're the unsung heroes, slogging it out behind the scenes, making everything look magical. So I'll do that.
Yeah. Oh, it looks great. Looks great, man.
Yeah, appreciate that very much.
Yeah.
Well, it's an honor. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Rick.
No, go ahead, buddy. I just want to ask one more question. Matter of fact, Rick likes to ask it. We ask it of all of our veteran entrepreneurs, but go ahead and finish up, Drew. Appreciate that.
No, I think really it was just,
I know it's a big thrill to be on the Range podcast, for sure.
Well, it's just, I'm trying to do this in a way that keeps me straight faced, because if I get a lump in my throat, it screws up my speaking voice. So, to have guys like you, Rick, sort of see what we're doing, step forward, help us out. Didn't know us from Adam. Hey, sure, let me help you. Let me give you all the information I can. Let me send you everything I can. Here's every approval that you use whatever. You just like that sort of support is that's the hand of God coming in, and the feeling of getting us connected the way that we did. This project wouldn't work without that, because we were kind of, a little bit reaching with the War Dogs in particular. This is not an area that we know a lot about, or we knew a lot about, and so your help with this is what help us bring it to life. So thank you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Drew, but really the faith in you guys, right? So it's a two-way street, and you bring up a great point. You don't know what connection God's going to make. So what was the whole purpose? Because really, I circled back to you guys, referenced the special operations, right? Because you guys were trying to look for some help with that. And then, hey, man, how about, that's cool, but what about these dog things? What do you think about dogs? And then next, it gets up and goes. So, no, dude, I mean, from me to you, Drew, I can't thank you enough. Right. And really you, kind of took everything I was giving you, got things going and then added things to yourself. Right. So don't cheat yourself.
Not at all.
I didn't
Yeah.
tell you what proof to make that bourbon. Right.
Yeah.
That was something on you guys. And you saw the tie of, hey man, the human side to that. So, all I did is I am just the vessel that's carrying a story, right? I was privileged to work some four-legged beasts in the battlefield, and really, you guys are helping us take that to the next level. So, is that Rick's doing? Is that Drew's doing? Nope. That's somehow God put us together to share the story and get it out there. So, for me to you, brother, keep it up. But
Thank
before we close, Drew, I got
Yes.
one question I always love to ask my veteran entrepreneurs. And that is, if you had one word of advice for that transitioning service member, especially getting into that entrepreneurial field, what would that be?
Oh, it's a great question. One word. Okay, I'll try to keep.
Well,
this
not
really
one word.
short.
Let me rephrase. If you had a piece of advice, let's just
Sure,
not go
okay.
one word, right?
Perfect.
If you had a piece of advice for that transitioning veteranpreneur.
Got it. So I would couch it in sort of two parts that are sort of connected. The first would be as you're leaving the tribe that you've been a part of and step out into the civilian world. If you try to go it alone, if you try to just not. Let me back up. Definitely connect with the tribe as soon as you're transitioning. Get with other veterans, get with other veteran business owners, other entrepreneurs, build that teamwork very, very quickly. Get support. There's a lot to learn, right? You're in the service, you know your job, your MOS really, really well. You all the things that you've done, you get out and there could be overwhelming, both socially, isolation standpoint, but then also if you're going to go be an entrepreneur. And I know a lot of soft guys, retired soft guys and former soft that go entrepreneurial because the mindset and the IQ and all that kind of stuff is lends itself to being in business. But this is not a do by self, quote unquote thing. That makes it just that much harder. So my advice would be surround yourself with a tribe of veterans that are doing the kind of thing you're doing, learn, get involved with groups, and keep that teamwork and that tribe mentality. To work together so that you and the other members of that tribe can all succeed together.
Awesome advice, brother. It's all about the tribe, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Or as some of us like to call it, the crew.
The crew
here at On the Range podcast, right? Because we kicked we were kicking things around. Hey, what do we use? And I think, Mark, we kind of came up with crew was the best, because a bunch of people had tribes and other things out there. We're like, hey, how can we stand a little unique? So yeah, we're really, On the Range podcast crew. So and of course for you, Drew, man, you're part of the crew without a doubt. So couldn't do it without you, brother.
Yeah, buddy.
Thank you,
you being the voice of this project, you hit a home run today, and this whole thing, the way it turned out, I know you were very heavy-handed in it because I can tell just by talking to you the passion, and it's a great project. It's a great product, and I can't wait to see where it goes. So you got to come back when you got some other stuff going on too and join the show.
100%.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely, Mark. Thank you.
All right, buddy. All right, man. Well, great having you, Drew. We're going to go ahead and say goodbye, but stand by because we don't want you to leave. We're going to go ahead and touch with you, and there's going to be some extra content for the crew members.
Sounds fantastic.
Thanks again, Drew.
Really
all right, thanks, Drew.
Man, Rick,
dude,
thanks for bringing him on, man. I know, we've been talking about this project a lot, but man, he hit a home run, bro. Home run.
Mark, I can't tell you enough, right? And this goes for the viewers, listeners, patrons, all that stuff. The behind the scenes, you guys will never know, but I will just tell you from you to me. This is a top-notch company that truly cares. If you haven't tasted that whiskey, man, absolutely fantastic, right? And the beauty is, when it comes to bourbon whiskey, everyone's got their own separate palates. There it is, man. Luckily, I've got this one here is my uncracked version, my studio version, right? We won't show you the other bottle because then people go, "Oh, Rick, I got a problem." We're good.
He just got it yesterday. That's right.
We do a lot of sipping around here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man.
But the part that solidifies this whole thing is that Duco paw print, right? I can't.
Yeah.
I didn't ask them for it. That was all they're doing, but it brings home this whole piece of the War Dogs. So, you know, for me to Heritage, I'll always be grateful for them for helping keep that going. And dude, how many other people? I mean, that's a no kidding physical touch point.
Yeah.
Dude, how many people were able to touch Duke's paw print? Right.
Yep.
You can now. All you got to do is pick yourself up a bottle. So, and then plus
they did a great job.
Yeah.
They did a great job. You did a great job too, buddy.
Thanks, brother. I just,
happy to help.
I just kind of, threw it out there and they ran with it. So
good.
Yeah.
All right. Crew member, stand by. Rick, you stand by as well. I know you like to close it out.
You know it, buddy. For all of you listening, don't forget, train hard, stay safe, and we'll see you guys on the range.
On the Range Podcast.